This week's episode had a lot to live up to. As we all know, I loved what they did last week. So, figuring out how to top that is kind of tricky, especially because you have to fast forward 10 years and you have to feature a character no one likes. So, yeah, how did Cardfight Vanguard, Shinemon, whatever, do this? Also, I know last week I said that was the finale, and I stand by that. This is clearly meant to be Chrono's backdoor pilot. So, yeah, we're just going to keep naming things based on, for clerical sake. Anyways, so, I'm getting over a cold, and don't worry, I checked it. It's just a cold. So if I sound a little out of it at some points, it's that. So, yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing they do in this episode that's really smart is they open with a flashback of last week. And most importantly, it does not show the results of the fight. The flashback simply consists of what we saw. And then proceeds to start off with a text showing us what happened. Now, this is very smart for a couple of reasons. First up, because they didn't show the result of the card fight last week, it allowed for that episode's point of tragedy and loss to stay the focus. Therefore, no matter what they do in the future, that episode's single effect in the vacuum of its 25 minutes will always be maintained. Now, going on to this week, after we get the flashback, we then get the computer text, and I like that it was computer text, just different from showing just regular text if it's like, 10 years later, Shin is. And what I like about this, normally text like that is pretty lazy, but here it kind of works. It's just a black background and just sort of the unceremonious typing noise and all that. It really is a nice way of bringing you into what Shin has become. When we last saw him, he was this triumphant badass who saved his friend and stopped some sort of weird, crazy alien crossing over shit. And now he's just like goofy shop owner who kids shit on. And I kind of love that transition. I like the idea that throughout the episode, even though it's never beaten over your head, everyone never got over what happened with Rive. Everyone was affected differently, everyone acted differently, but there's never a scene where somebody like breaks down crying and be like, I miss Rive, or something like that. Like, no. It's been 10 years. Everyone has had time to process this in their own different and unique ways. Obviously, in the case of Shin, we see that he kind of, in a way, got a little lost in life. He lost his interest in continuing as a card fighter. He just decided to stick to raising Misaki and live a simple life. We see that Mark obviously became a teacher, but he also kind of, like, the minute Chrono walks in, first instinct is take the picture down. Like, don't let him see it. He is also not over losing Rive, and none of them really know how to deal with Chrono because of it. That's a really smart way to handle it. And speaking of which, because obviously, like, Shin meeting Eska it's fun because, like, they are very fun together, and they're sort of flirty, but also sometimes, like, older sister-esque dialogue is always fun to watch, but that's kind of, obviously, that's to get Shin out of the room, like, ultimately. So then we move on to what is obviously the main focus of the episode, and that being the introduction of course, one 14-year-old version of Chrono Shindo. This was one of the things I was dreading. Because last time around, and look, obviously we'll have more time to discuss how this show does Chrono as we get more into the nitty-gritty of it, but for right now, just to keep it very simple, I fucking hate the original Chrono. He's bland. He's boring. He has zero personality or forward momentum. He basically just does whatever anyone tells him and has no real discernible reaction. People debate over who's better, the sub or the dub actor. They both fucking suck because they're not given a good script to work off of. I forget, because if I'm correct, the Kid Chrono from the past few episodes was not played by Chrono's original voice actor due to illness. I do not remember off the top of my head because I don't really care to look it up if this is the same voice actor or a new voice actor, but man, they do a real good job. I was a little worried at first because Chrono's introduction is him being dragged by Kamui to Card Capital. That is a little troublesome because, again, that gets rid of the idea of forward momentum. Chrono is once again being led. He's once again doing just what he's told. That's not good character writing. But it is circumvented by a scene that made me laugh a lot harder than it logically should have. I don't know why. When Chrono goes in there, because you assume it's what it was last time. Kamui's going to teach him into Vanguard, he's curious about the deck, and then he's just going to be obsessed with it. That is not what happens. When he put the thing on the table and was like, I want to sell this, I burst out laughing. It was so good. And the funny thing is, I actually know that is how he was introduced in the manga as well, but something about it just really got to me. Because, like, in the real world, that's kind of how we view trading cards. Like, yeah, we have our sentimental connections, we have our practical connections because we use them, but for the vast majority of people in the competitive card game industry, most cards are their monetary value and what use you get out of them before you're ready to flip them. So that ultimately really just made me laugh that they applied it here, and also it immediately fixes what was about to be a big problem, because Chrono didn't do what he was told to do. He is obviously, look, whether they include the original idea of Ibuki doing it, or if it's someone else, I don't know. Obviously, the person gives him the deck because they want him to use it. Obviously, Kamui drags him to Card Capital because he wants him to use it. Chrono is like, no, fuck this shit. Give me some money, damn it. And I just love the way he's acted. I love that Chrono is a jerk. Like, he is this kind of punk kid. I like that we see him genuinely come across as threatening to a classmate. This was a big problem in G because they kept telling you people think he's a jerk, but you never see him be a jerk. Rule 1 of character writing. Focus on who a character is, not who they aren't. And that is exactly what G did. And the reason they did this is because if they show him being negative, if they show him being a jerk, that might tell little kiddies that, oh no, he's a jerk, I don't want to buy Gear Chronicle, and oh fuck, look how much Gear Chronicle product they're making with his fucking face on it! Yes, in my head, all small children curse like someone from Brooklyn. That's how I view the world. There's a reason I'm not a parent. Anyways, so, then we also get the idea of Chrono having a little PTSD from when he was dragged into an interdimensional portal with the aliens. Let's hope they don't lean too heavily into this. No, I like that bit. Like, it's just kind of this weird traumatic thing that always stuck with him, and just like everyone else, it still bothers him. And, like, because of it, he feels alienated. He feels like he doesn't belong with anybody. And I like his motivation for selling it. It wasn't just a one-off joke. He wants out. He wants to go away. He wants to be on his own where nobody can bother him. And this is great because when you see Mikuru, the way they sort of are at the table, just this very minimal dialogue, where Mikuru is just kind of like, did you make any friends? Oh, just kidding. It really feels like no one has been able to reach this kid. Because no one has been able to really get over what happened to themselves. Because obviously it still stuck with him. That was her brother. And I like her whole way of acting throughout the episode. In the original version, Mikuru is mostly just kind of sexy ant lady. Okay, that might be a weird way to put it, but I'm sticking with it! But this is important because in this version, we got to know Mikuru. We saw her as a character, so establishing very quickly how she has also not gotten over this, and she's more than just a perfunctory ant, is very good and very important. And we see how it bothers her, and we see how she's probably had a very hard time trying to reach Chrono. So this time around, she's not trying to hide Vanguard from him or hide the truth about Rive, because let's be real here, that was only in the original so they could drag everything out. But here, when you probably only have, like, 40, 50 episodes at most, you have to really think about how you're going to use these plot points, and I think that's a very effective way of doing it. I also like it when the card fight starts. Chrono isn't immediately this unbeatable badass who beats Kamui. No, he loses his first card fight and is only tangentially interested because he thinks it's weird that he feels a connection to Chronodran, and also because the cards share his name. He is not super interested, he is not super invested, but there's something drawing him to it. That is a hell of a lot better than, I'm going to be the strongest card fighter because I have nothing else better to do with my fucking time. Like, that is a really great idea. I also like that we get a brief touch on what happened to everybody. It's not like everyone disappeared, except like the one guy who would probably walk away and never talk to anybody. I love that we won't have to deal with Kanzaki as a villain, probably. I also think it's interesting that Myojin is not crazy evil scientist guy this time. Maybe that means a more complex version of Myojin. Maybe he'll get evil later, but this is a lot more interesting than just, woo, I'm an evil scientist! So yeah, that was also very good. Is there anything I'm missing? I like that Tatsuya and the other chick are still involved in this. I like that the only people who really walked away were the people who just couldn't bring themselves to stay involved, and how that never affected them. And also, Chrono being a jerk to Shin, like being like, screw you, old man. Like, stuff like that is just really good for establishing character. And also showing that Shin still wants to help Chrono. He still wants to fix him. And yeah, I know it's stupid, I know it's cliche, but at the end there, when he goes into a vault and like takes out the other glasses and flips his hair up, I hate to say it, but I kind of smiled. It was cool, and I dug it, and I was into it. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes. They made Chrono feel like a real goddamn character this time. The one thing that sort of annoyed me was when Chrono doesn't recognize Shin, he's just like, so, he lost his memories. He was fucking 4! He was 4 years old! Why would anyone remember random people who were friends of their parents when they were 4? Anyways, so yeah, that's my little rant about that. But overall, I think this is a really great way to pick things up. I really like that Misaki is now legal. All this stuff I think really works, and I really want to see what happens next. So come join us next week where we talk about more Cardfight Vanguard, because let's be real here, you're not fucking leaving your house anytime soon. Or you probably never were. I know my audience. So, yeah, that was this week's Cardfight Vanguard. As for the Vanguard question of the week, while we still have a lot more Gear Chronicle cards to see, I feel like I should bring this up now. If they still... obviously, they're sticking to the Superior Ride Grade 4s from the deck gimmick. My question to you is, are you okay with the sort of high-risk, high-reward Gear Chronicle had from their last set release? Now, obviously, that last set release was just to keep the clan relevant for a few months and probably sidetrack us from thinking we were going straight to Chrono. But, all in all, even though Gear Chronicle is a super fun deck, when it works, it's very bricky and very assist-heavy just due to what you have to play to make it function. So my question is, are you okay if they were to keep it like that? High risk, high reward. Or would you prefer if the deck was more consistent and you felt like your anime deck was as good as it is in the real world? So yeah, tell me your thoughts about that below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me next week for the return of a version of Shin who looks suspiciously like Joseph Joestar.